Hello, how's it going, everyone? Welcome into a brand new episode of Spencer Talks NASCAR. I'm your host, Spencer Urquhart, and we are bringing you two episodes this week. That's right, y'all are going to have this first episode here of the week reviewing the Las Vegas race, as well as going over the top 10 Cup drivers, according to yours truly. My power rankings will be revealed in this episode as well. Figured it'd be good to talk about those topics earlier in the week as opposed to waiting till Friday. Don't worry, y'all. We will have a Friday episode too, going over the Phoenix race as well as my best bets for Phoenix, which, by the way, don't mean to brag on myself here, but my best bets have been red hot to start this season. So if y'all haven't been following them, do it now because they are really rolling. Well, I may have just jinxed myself. Hopefully not, though. Hopefully they keep rolling because I've been making some real money doing those. It's been a lot of fun. And of course, just really just do it because I love racing. Don't view that as any sort of income for real. But hey, we'll see how it goes this week. But anyway, going to get back on track here for this episode, talking all things Las Vegas. Going to review that race here. Kyle Larson takes the victory, got him right as the outright winner. He was the overall favorite. A lot of people are scared to take him as such a heavy favorite. I normally shy away from heavy favorites like that, but I was looking at the data, couldn't ignore it. Kyle Larson freaking owns Las Vegas, and sure enough, the numbers rang true, and Larson dominated yet again. Ever since he went to Hendrick Motorsports, he has owned Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Same year, different year, same story as far as Larson's concerned. So we're going to get into that here. He is your Las Vegas winner. Had some storylines to talk about there as far as who ran well, who didn't run well. We're going to go over the results and the point standings here. And before we get into that, just want to give my overall general thoughts on the race. I thought it was a pretty solid race, from start to finish. It had its moments where it was somewhat exciting with the strategies and stuff. Nothing overly dramatic, though. I remember Kyle Busch early on, he had started near the back and then did a two-tire strategy that really paid off for him and a couple other guys. I think him and Denny Hamlin and maybe one other driver that worked his way up to the front. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was just a good race as far as just seeing how these strategies played out, seeing how drivers moved throughout the day, moved throughout the field, with this being more of a race that was in the driver's hands as opposed to Daytona and Atlanta, which, the drivers obviously got to do well and be on their game, but this is a race that, as a driver, like, you really got to be on it because one little mistake, as we saw at the end of the race with Kyle Busch, can cost you dearly. Mistakes are a lot less forgiving here than at Daytona and Atlanta, where you can a lot of times make a pit road mistake or something and get right back on the lead lap and work your way back, where this race was a lot more unforgiving as far as that. But it was interesting, though, to see. I like the new package here, to see how the different manufacturers stood out. It seemed like Chevy and Toyota definitely had the leg up on Ford in this one. Ford seemed just a little bit behind. I think they'll eventually catch up, but for now, it's definitely Chevy, Toyota leading the way. Specifically, Hendrick and JGR, no surprises there. But they had some other teams. RCR and Trackhouse, their cars seemed fast, as well as Spire. Chevy as a whole just looked really strong. Pretty much all their cars, as far as their key partner teams, are running well. And even Spire, one of their up-and-coming teams. So that was good to see. And then Toyota, 2311 with Reddick did well. JGR as a whole is strong. Legacy Motor Club didn't make a whole lot of noise, but they ran okay. And then as far as Ford, front row, they came down after their great start, really leading a lot of laps early on. I think that was kind of a fluke. They didn't seem like they had the speed. RFK was kind of off. Chris Buescher, unfortunately, got caught up in an early incident. And then Penske was, Logano had the pole. He didn't look that impressive. The only one there that looked good was Blaney. Blaney seems to be the only Ford driver that is elite right now, which we'll get more to that in our power rankings. I think he's the only Ford driver that made my power rankings this week. That's pretty wild to say considering how good Ford's been over the years, but they've kind of down right now as a whole. But let's get into these results here, y'all. Kyle Larson takes the win, 181 laps led, dusts the field. Tyler Reddick, though, I gotta say, he was oh so close. He really had his car dialed in down the stretch at that nasty beast Toyota. I thought maybe he could catch Kyle Larson. They were neck and neck there in the final laps, but Larson just did a really good job at blocking and cutting off Reddick's line, which is kind of the downside to these kind of cars. They can race well, but at these intermediates, a lot of times you can kind of, if you have the lead, you can use that clean air to your advantage. And if you throw the right blocks and know the right lines to run, it's tougher to get the second place guy to catch you. And that's kind of what we saw here on Sunday. Reddick only led one lap, but was up front all day, almost won the stages as well. Both stages were similar with Reddick trying to chase Larson down. So it was clear that Reddick was the only car that could hang with Larson. I mean, nobody else really had the speed to hang with Larson consistently. Chastain, I mean, he led a couple laps. He had a good car. Ty Gibbs ran up front a lot of the way, and freaking Noah Gragson, where did he come from? He charged through the field. Him and Blaney, I was saying Ford kind of down, but at least two Fords made the top six there at Blaney and Gragson. They both had strong runs there in that final run. They both were able to maximize their finishing positions there. And Martin Truex had a good car. He was up front all day. He led a few. Hamlin, Denny didn't do as well as I thought. I had him as penciled in to be a top 3. He was one of my best bets. He was a little disappointing, but he did lead laps, so he got a top 10. So not a bad day for Denny. Logano sneaks a top 10 after struggling a lot of day. And then William Byron was really good early. He was right there with Kyle Larson, but he faded a little bit. Still ends up 10th, though, so not a bad day by any means for Willie B. And then Daniel Suarez, he led a few laps, too. He wasn't quite on the level of his teammate Chastain, but it was a solid effort, though. It showed that Atlanta last week, it wasn't a fluke, you know. I mean, Suarez, I think they're better this year. Trackhouse, with his team, they seem like they've stepped up, and then we all know what Chastain can do. So Chase Elliott, he was a tad disappointing. He was pretty decent, though, all day. Can't say it was a bad day for him, but thought he might do a little better considering how strong his teammates were. He definitely seemed like a distant third to Larson and Byron as far as speed. So they're going to need to pick things up there for Chase Elliott. It seems like he's kind of like the same as last year where, I mean, he's not bad, but he doesn't have that race-winning speed again. Like, he hadn't really had that since 2022, so they've got some work to do there. Brad Keselowski, he was struggling a lot of the day, but he worked his way up to 13th. That was big as far as getting some points there, trying to make up the deficit he had to the 2 DNFs to start it off the year. Eric Jones, he ran okay today, got a top 15. Same for Carson Hocevar. Great run for the rookie. He is the highest rookie right now in points, on pace for Rookie of the Year honors. My preseason pick was Zane Smith. I'll stand by that. But Hocevar looking impressive so far. Spire Motorsports, his whole Corey LaJoy, he didn't get the finish he deserved. He was up front a lot of the day, top 10, at one point top 5, but he unfortunately spun out at the end there. Austin Dillon had a decent day. He was up like in the top 10 some of the time. Ricky Stenhouse, he wasn't much of a factor, but he snuck a top 20. Alex Bowman, kind of disappointing. Thought he might run a little better as a former Las Vegas winner. Had him as a top 10 pick. Unfortunately, didn't come through. Thankfully, Ty Gibbs came through, though. He not only got a top 10 for me, he got top 5. I should have bet him top 5. Shoot, he really did good there. Shout out to the second-year driver, Ty Gibbs. Daniel Hemrick sneaks a top 20 there for Colleague. And then Josh Berry, top 20 there for Stuart Haas. And then the rest of the field, they're not going to go over every individual driver at this point. Kyle Busch, got to shout him out, though. Led 18 laps. Had a really good car. RCR, got to say, they really seem to step up their game. They looked really good. Remember last year at Vegas, he ran okay, but this year he looked like he wasn't too far off from Larson. I mean, he led the second most laps. If it wasn't for that penalty pit over the pit box line, and he got penalized there toward the end of the race, and he couldn't overcome it. I think he had to restart like 31st, and he was only able to make up like 5 spots because it was toward the end, and at that point it was hard to pass. So yeah, unfortunately, lost day for him. Same with Corey LaJoie there in 32nd. He had a good car. Should have finished a lot better than he did. Same with Christopher Bell. It's hard to know what kind of car Christopher Bell had. He has spun out twice. He had one of those just forget it kind of days, just forget it and move on. Because, we all know the kind of driver Christopher Bell is. I mean, if it wasn't for those incidents, he'd have probably finished top 10, top 5. All his teammates ran well. They all finished top 10. So not worried about C. Bell long term. Just a little blip in the road, I'd say. Nothing to worry about there. Bubba Wallace, what a weird day for him. I'm still confused about what happened with him. They didn't really show it on TV, and then Mike Joy proceeds to announce it and says that they've got to cut the nut off. I was like, what the hell? I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Cut the nut off. What they were saying was Bubba Wallace, they got a lug nut stuck on one of the tires. I think they were trying to change it, and it was stuck because they just changed 3. Then he comes back thinking maybe they could get it off at that point, but they still couldn't. So then they had to freaking cut it off literally to where he lost several laps. I think finished 13 laps down. Just a really disappointing day for Bubba Wallace, something that he had no control over. That was disappointing because, he can't control that as a driver. That sucks. Same with Zane Smith. His teammates Osafar and LaJoy ran well, but he had an incident early in the race and got several laps down, couldn't make it up. And then Chris Buescher also had a lug nut issue. I think they didn't get the lug nut tight because his whole wheel fell off, and then he smacked the wall and crashed out on lap 27 there. He's the only DNF. He was the only major incident. Everyone else finished the race. So overall, very clean race. That was good to see after all the carnage the first 2 weeks. So yeah, those guys, Ty Gibbs and Noah Gragson were probably the 2 biggest surprises as far as they really paid off for bettors. Anyone that took Ty Gibbs to finish top 5 or Noah Gragson to finish top 10, those were the odds were definitely positive there to where you could probably have made a little bit of money doing those. The Gibbs, I kind of saw that coming. I had him pegged to finish top 10. So I was on it there with Ty Gibbs. But Noah Gragson, though, that one was very surprising. Did not see that coming, but shout out to Noah. He's still in a big points hole, though, unfortunately. He had that big penalty after Atlanta. Him and Ryan Preece. Preece was a disaster in this race. But Gragson, man, I got to say, Stewart-Haas, the rumors that Chevy is probably going to take them back. Going to go off on a tangent here. Stewart-Haas, it was leaked earlier this week that they'll most likely be parting ways with Ford after the season. And it doesn't seem like Honda is going to be a part of NASCAR anytime soon. If they would, it would probably be like 3-4 years from now. As I know, I'm sure y'all have heard about the Honda to NASCAR rumors, but that's nothing in the immediate future. So assuming Stewart-Haas parts ways with Ford, they're going to have to go to either Chevy or Toyota. And I really don't see Tony Stewart going to Toyota. He didn't seem to have a good relationship with Toyota. He left Toyota after one season. Remember when they went to JGR in 2008, it just didn't seem like a good match. Tony jumped ship pretty much immediately, went to started Stewart-Haas, and then they were a Chevy team for their first almost 10 years, I think, of existence. And then they switched to Ford a few years back and just hadn't really worked out too well. So I would think Stewart-Haas will be a Chevy team next season. And Noah Gragson was a Chevy driver with Junior Motorsports. Same with Josh Berry. So I think that would be good news for both of them. Both of them have been a part of the Chevrolet family before. So I would think that transition would be seamless. The one that maybe on the also is Chase Briscoe, because he was a Ford guy. He's always been a Ford development driver. So Ford might want to keep him within one of their teams, or he might be on his way out of Stewart-Haas. So, well, that'll be a conversation for another day, but just wanted to throw that out there. Noah Gragson, man, all these Stewart-Haas guys are on the hot seat. So these next few weeks, they need to show that they're worthy to keep their rides, especially if Stewart-Haas decides to sell a charter. Because if they do, somebody's going to get cut. And so Gragson definitely has a chip on his shoulder. He knows that his days in Cup could be numbered if he doesn't run well. But 2 top 10s to start the season out of 3 races, that's really good. So I gotta say, all these names, none of them really that surprising. And other than him, like what, Noah Gragson, like all these other names are like he's all the usual suspects. But yeah, Noah really stepped up there. So got definitely shouting him out. The name of Hocevar, he's the other surprise there in the top 15, the rookie. So good to see him run well. Good to see some rookies up there. And then as far as disappointments, yeah, Kyle Busch, I mean, that penalty really cost him. If it wasn't for that, he'd have been up front. Those penalties, man, are costly as we're about to take a look at the point standings here. I mean, Kyle Busch was the points leader. He may have stayed the points leader, but now he's down to 6th. I mean, he's not in a bad spot. I mean, I'm sure he'll win a few races this year to where he won't have to worry about pointing his way in, but still, you don't want to throw away good finishes like that when you've got good cars like he had in this race. You can't be having that. I mean, his team's got to do better. They've got to clean up those mistakes, especially if they consider themselves a championship contender. You cannot be making dumb mistakes like that come playoff time, or you will get eliminated early. But anyway, yeah, C. Bell, really disappointing, just self-inflicted wounds there. And then Bubba, unfortunately, with the lug nut issue, that was the way Mike Joyce said that. I was like, oh my God, cut the nut off. I won't say it anymore. I'm sure y'all probably just like, oh, stop saying that. It sounds terrible, but that's what went down there with Bubba. But anyway, yeah, that's that. Las Vegas, y'all, the Pennzoil 400. Pretty solid race, nothing special. Not going to go down the history books or anything like Atlanta last week, but pretty solid race, especially for us hardcore NASCAR fans. I just like to see a good, clean race. So solid stuff, I would say. All right, let's go over to point standings here before we get to the power rankings. So Kyle Larson now sits atop the point standings, has an 8-point cushion over Ryan Blaney, who, let's see, as far as I was saying about Ford struggles, where's the next Ford driver? Yeah, Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney, literally the only Ford driver in the top 10. So, yeah, just disappointing start for Ford. But I mean, Blaney, the defending champion, he's not letting that get to him. He's still running very well. Damn near won in Atlanta last week. Got a podium this week, was podium at the Clash. I mean, he got wrecked out of Daytona. I mean, he's a total package, man. I mean, Ryan Blaney was a very deserving champion last year, and I feel like he's someone that is just starting to kind of hit his peak. I mean, him and Kyle Larson right now, and then William Byron, those are as we'll see, I'll just spoil it. I mean, those are my top 3 once again. I mean, those 3 are just so freaking good right now. I mean, they're all just have really good speed every week, and they're all in the prime of their careers. You know, same with Ross Chastain, I'd say. Ross is another one to watch. He's been very fast this year. I think all 4 of these guys win multiple races. And then the guy that's quietly sitting in third there, Martin Truex Jr. He was the guy that I basically wrote off before the start of the season. I said he'd miss the playoffs. I was thinking he'd decline this season, but no sign of that so far. So far, it's just been the same solid Martin Truex Jr. Just consistently running up front. Hadn't led that many laps per se, but he's up there still. So I have a feeling I'm going to eat my words about saying Martin Truex is going to miss the playoffs because he's just looking very, very solid there once again. And then Kyle Busch, they're the 2 most seasoned veterans, them and then Denny Hamlin, all off the pretty solid starts, all top 10 in points. Daniel Suarez, he has the win on the season. He's up there. Chase Elliott's been kind of quiet, too. He's kind of quietly in 7th. Hasn't really had a great start to the year, but I mean, 7th, that's respectable. He's been respectable. He just got to get that race winning speed again. He's got the solid floor. He's just got to regain that upside that he had just not that long ago. So definitely not time to panic about Chase Elliott, but they will need to get a little bit better if they want to be a true championship contender come the playoffs. Still got a long way to go, obviously, before then. Ty Gibbs in the top 10 now. He sees his stock go up a lot with showing that he can run really well at these intermediates. And that was why I really liked him to finish top 10 this week, because he didn't really get the results last season, but he had the speed. Like Ty Gibbs was there most weeks. He just a lot of times would have rookie mistakes that would cost him. But this week, I mean, he ran really well and was without first gear. I believe he complained about saying he didn't have first gear. It was kind of difficult for him to complete his pit stop in the pit lane and all that. Like, I believe without first gear, it makes all that kind of stuff difficult as far as trying to get slowed up and stuff. But yeah, though, he ran a great race, though, got a top 5. So I said before the year, I thought he'd make the playoffs and get a win. I'm going to stand by that. He's off to a good start. Austin Cindric came back to earth this week. He was a guy that really benefited from the season starting off at plate tracks. And again, he's going to have to show he can do better at intermediates. He didn't really show it this week. So he's got, let's see, he's one of the biggest losers, down 8 spots. As we see here, yeah, Denny Hamlin up 9. He gained a lot with his good finish. Kyle Larson up 10. And then our biggest loser, Bubba Wallace. Down 10 spots in the standings. And he had, or the rough day. I'm not going to say what happened. Y'all know what happened again, the lug nut incident. So, yeah, tough day for him. And then here's our playoff cutoff. John Hunter Nemechek. Looks like he's 2 points to the good right now over Corey LaJoy if the season ended after 3 races. Well, there's a reason that they make the season 26 races. So, I mean, no offense to John Hunter, but he has not been a playoff driver so far this year. I mean, guys like Christopher Bell, Chris Buescher, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, I think they're going to get more speed as the year goes on. So, not panicking about any of those guys. Just 3 races in, although RFK Racing's been kind of sluggish so far to start this season. Not panicking per se, but they need to get going here these next few weeks. Phoenix, I mean, I don't think they were bad at short tracks last year. They shined the best at the plate tracks, and then they did pretty well at intermediates. But short tracks, I think Buescher won at a short track. Richmond, maybe? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Chris Buescher did pretty well at short tracks. And we all know Keselowski can do well at shorter tracks. Phoenix, not technically a short track, but it's kind of a hybrid between a short track intermediate. I consider it more of a short track, but we'll see if those Ford boys can bounce back this week. A lot of them near the bottom. And yeah, Noah Gragson, what a shame. Still near the bottom of the standings, despite running well so far. Had that costly penalty. I think it was a 50-point penalty. But if he can keep running well, he'll be able to make that up. So we'll see what happens here. Not sure, though, what to expect with these guys because, I mean, all these Fords are just kind of scuffling there. In the rookies, yeah, Hocevar, the highest rookie there. Another riser, I forgot to mention, Tyler Reddick. He actually was the biggest riser, up 13 spots. He had a rough start to the year. He tends to struggle at the plate tracks, but he is now up to 12th and up 13 spots. So shout out to Tyler Reddick. Just goes to show how quick he can make up ground. I mean, a guy like Keselowski or, C-Bell, Logano, they can get a good run here soon. I mean, they all can run well at Phoenix. They could make up that in a hurry and leapfrog the guys like JHN and Bowman, ones that haven't really been doing all that well this year, despite being in playoff position at the moment. All right, y'all, that's the points review. Let's go over power rankings here. My power rankings before we sign off of this episode of Spencer Talks NASCAR, our first early week episode. So, yeah, enjoying this one here to start the week with y'all, as opposed to just the later in the week episode, which I feel like it's going good. But, yeah, we'll try our best to bring y'all 2 a week from here on out. All right, so our top 10 drivers. We'll go 10 to 1 here. Got Christopher Bell at 10. He dropped 5. I had him 5th last week. He is down to 10th. Didn't want to drop him out of the ranks. I know his point standing is pretty rough right now, but to me, I had to keep Christopher Bell in the top 10. I think that Las Vegas race was a fluke. I don't think that's a sign of things to come. I think he'll bounce back as soon as this week at Phoenix. I feel like Batters might be panicking a little bit with him to where I think he'll be a good value on the odds chart. We'll see when the odds come out. I'll have the episode later in the week going over all that. But yeah, Christopher Bell, I think will bounce back as soon as this week. And might, if he wins, shoot, he might be back in the top 5 next week. So definitely not worried about Christopher Bell, but had to drop him, though, being that he is currently out of the playoffs. So had to drop him accordingly in the power rank. Still don't think he's a top 10 driver in the Cup Series right now. No doubt about that, in my opinion. Number 9, Daniel Suarez. The Amigo moves up a spot. He cracked the top 10 after winning last week and was pretty respectable at Las Vegas. Led some laps. You know, he's like, as long as he keeps running pretty well, he's going to stay in this top 10. Because let's be real, he's got a race win. His playoff spot is all but locked up. So if you're in that position, and your team is probably one of the 10 best. So I know that Atlanta race was, he barely won it, skin of his teeth, 3/1000ths of a second and all that. But hey, he ran pretty well this week at an intermediate. It wasn't like Austin Cindric where he was a no-show. If he'd have been a no-show, I may not have included him, but he wasn't a no-show. He almost cracked the top 10. So shout out to the Amigo, Daniel Suarez. Number 8, Martin Truex Jr. He is in the ranks now. I had to include him. I know I was down on him before the season, but let's be real. MTJ is still a threat. He's still running up front. And shoot, he might break through this week at Phoenix. Probably not going to be my pick. I still don't know if he's quite on the level. Like when he was the regular season champ last year, he was killing it. He was not only getting the top 5, top 10s, he was running up front. So we'll see if he can get back to that level. I felt like he had declined though during the playoffs. So we'll see. I was thinking maybe the trend would just continue trending down for him considering his age, but I mean, he's with one of the elite teams there in JGR, so it wouldn't shock me if he continues running well. Number 7, Tyler Reddick. He had dropped out after a tough start to the year, but he's now back in the top 10. He was one of my championship 4 picks, so I feel kind of silly for leaving him out of last week's power rankings, but I mean, he was buried in the standings, so I was like, well, he's got to show me something this week, and he definitely did. He was the only car that could hang with Kyle Larson. So, yeah, he's here to stay. I feel like he's pretty much a threat to win it everywhere, but I feel like the super speedways, he is always in a bad position. It's not like he's terrible at that kind of racing either. I mean, he's a threat to win anywhere. I just feel like at that kind of racing, he tends to I guess he just doesn't run up front enough to where he usually ends up caught up in the big one. I feel like the chances of you getting caught up in the big one are less if you run up front, but even then, it's no guarantee that you'll avoid it. But anyway, Tyler Reddick, he's a top 10 driver, arguably top 5. I mean, he was really good this week, and he's going to continue to get good results. Should win multiple races this year. Number 6, Denny Hamlin moved up one. You know, he led a good amount of laps this week and didn't get quite the result he wanted, but I mean, top 10, pretty respectable. Feel like he hadn't really hit his stride yet, but once he does, he'll get there. I mean, let's be real, y'all. Denny Hamlin is he's got his formula down where he knows what he's doing. He's a seasoned vet, and he'll be there at the end of the day. Love him or hate him. I know a lot of y'all don't like Denny Hamlin, but he's one of the best in the business. Championship or no championship, you gotta respect what Denny does. Number 5, Kyle Busch. He is down 1 after last week. And it's disappointing with the self-inflicted wounds there because, I mean, Kyle Busch, I'm really impressed with what I've seen with him so far. I know it was similar script to last season, started off good and then fizzled, but let's hope the fizzle doesn't happen this year because I think if they can stay consistent there and continue to grow as a team, like get these mistakes out the way now. I'm not panicking about this stuff because it's early. If it's happening early, you've got months to fix it. I mean, we're only in early March. I mean, you've got all of April, all of May, all of June, all of July, all of August. I mean, shoot, that's like 5 months to get ready. That's the good thing about the NASCAR season. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You've got plenty of time to get this stuff fixed. And if you've got the speed, they can stay consistent with having fast cars. Kyle Busch will be just fine come playoff time. Number 4, Ross Chastain, got him up 2. He ran really well this week. Almost stole a win. He did the strategy there, almost got the win. His tires, though, kind of wore off after a few laps, and Larson got by and pulled away. Reddick did as well. Reddick was the only real threat to Larson. But Chastain, though, managed to finish top 5. He is off to a really good start this year, carrying over that momentum from winning that last race at Phoenix. And guess where we're going this week? Phoenix. Safe to say that Chastain will be among my best bets this week, assuming the value's there. If he ends up the favorite or something, which hell, he very well might. I could see the sharp bettors pounding his number to where he ends up to where he might not be that great of a value, but we'll see. I mean, he'll most likely be on my ticket, though. I'm just going to say that. Same with this guy at number 3, Ryan Blaney. He was the runner-up to Chastain last year in Phoenix, won, and of course was the best of the championship 4, so he won the championship. And he runs really well at Phoenix, running really well to start this season. Definitely a top 3 driver, and would be number 1 if it wasn't for the fact that these freaking Hendrick Motorsports guys are so freaking fast. And Blaney, I mean, let's be real, with Penske and Ford being kind of off right now, not really his fault, but there's only so much he can do because these freaking Hendrick cars are just, they look so much faster. So got to put Byron at 2, had Byron at 1, move him down 1, though. Wasn't quite as good as his teammate this week. Still good, though. I mean, Willie B, he's still one of the elite guys. Daytona 500 winner. He should win at least 3 or 4 races this year. Same with Kyle Larson at number 1. Got to put him up at number 1 now after this dominant Vegas win. He runs well at Phoenix, too. Wouldn't surprise me if he strung together back-to-back wins. I doubt he'll be on my betting card this week because I'm sure I was thinking about Chastain. I don't think there's any way anyone but Larson is the favorite this week. I'm pretty sure the books are going to make him almost unbettable this week. I don't think I'll have Larson on my card, but we'll see when the odds come out. So we'll see. But anyway, that's my power rankings, y'all. Larson, Byron, Blaney, Chastain, Kyle Busch, Hamlin, Reddick, Truex, Suarez, and C. Bell. That's the top 10 for this week. I believe I had 5 Chevys, 4 Toyotas, and a Ford. Is that right? I had Larson, Byron, Chastain, Kyle Busch, and Suarez. Yep, that's 5 Chevys. And Hamlin, Reddick, Truex, C. Bell. Yep, 4, and then Blaney to Ford. Okay. Yeah, so I had 4 Chevys in the top 5, then the Ford and Blaney, and then the 4 Toyotas there, and then Suarez and Chevy. Damn, so yeah, Chevy is rolling to start this season. They are firing on all cylinders. All their key partner teams up there, Hendrick, RCR, and Trackhouse. The 2 that dropped out, one of them was a Chevy, Chase Elliott. You know, there's no real fault of his own, but just I thought he'd be a little faster at Vegas, so I took him out. But I mean, it's like he's right there still. I could have kept him in the top 10. He's in a better points position than C. Bell right now, but I feel like Christopher Bell a little faster overall to start the season, so I kept C. Bell there. Elliott, though, not panicking about him. I think he'll eventually make his way back into the top 10. Bubba Wallace also fell out, basically swapped Reddick for him, but if it wasn't for the lug nut thing, Bubba may have run well enough to have stayed in the top 10. I have a feeling he'll be kind of bouncing in and out of the top 10 ranks throughout the year. I'm not worried about Bubba. I still think he will make the playoffs. And then Joey Logano, I think he'll eventually get back in there too, but didn't show me enough at Vegas to get back in there. Ty Gibbs is really trending up. I mentioned earlier, I think he'll eventually crack the top 10. Austin Cindric was trending toward cracking the top 10, but didn't run very well here at Vegas. Corey LaJoy, if he'd have gotten the result he deserved, he'd be in consideration. But if he can keep up that kind of speed and keep running well, wouldn't shock me if Corey LaJoy eventually cracks the top 10. He has been impressive so far to start this season. All right, y'all. I think that's going to do it for this early week episode of Spencer Talks NASCAR. Appreciate everyone for joining us on this journey. We're starting from the ground up. So please like, subscribe, comment, share it around, spread the word. We're trying to take this thing from nothing to something. started it from 0. So we've already got, I think we're up to 5 subs, y'all. So appreciate the ones that have subbed here from jump, and we're going to keep it jumping. We're going to keep jumping up. So hopefully we'll get to 100 subs before we know it. And then at that point, I feel like once you cross the 100 mark, then it's just only up from there. So let's keep it rolling, y'all. This has been Spencer Urquhart with Spencer Talks NASCAR. See y'all later this week for the Phoenix race preview. Peace out.